Video about world regions and the general running of the Foreign and Commonwealth Office. I'm about to sort of give a little synopsis of my analysis of key things that we ought to be trying to influence in 19, well actually 20, I think, regions of the world. But before we get on to that, I just want to reaffirm that we matter in the world. We should turn out from ourselves and seek to have relationships, intelligent relationships with people all over the world. We ought not to be cutting back, as we have done recently, on the world service, but we ought to make it really good and and other computer links and so on. We ought to sell our vision of the world, our wholesome, long perspective vision of the world, and we ought to use the British Council and other educational professional links, and the Export Credit Guarantee Department. Some of the things they've done have been pretty questionable ethically, some people say, and we should make sure that our trade links with the rest of the world are good from our end. And then also, I mean, it is amazing that, and I respect it, that there's a consensus now that we should give 0.7% of our gross domestic product, or gross national income, not sure the difference quite, as overseas aid to poorer countries, and that's good. It doesn't reach national consciousness very much. We don't really know what DFID, the Department for International Development, is doing. It's got a website and so on, but if you ask somebody going down the street what DFID has been doing, you might get some peculiar answers, and they probably won't know. But I think it's a mistake to hugely fund the Department for International Development and to scrimp and save on the Foreign Office, because the politics matters as well as the actual kit, the hard business of aid, because the politics is really crucial. And if the politics isn't right, a lot of the what Department for International Development can do, it seems to me, is likely to be wasted. So let's exalt the importance of the Foreign Office. Britons, all of us, when we go abroad on business and on holidays and to play sport and stuff like that, we are ambassadors of our country. We ought to be proud to be so, humbly so, and we ought to conduct ourselves properly and not get drunk and not create trouble and disgrace the name of our country. There should be none of that. And we also, the way we conduct our internal affairs in this country, for instance, by the conduct of a really good National Health Service, inspired by a family spirit within our country, things like that should become famous. It should go before us everywhere, and so people should be able to see that the way we run our country is a really super way to run a society, and that would be extremely influential before we even step out of the door. And the reputation of our countries as delivering really good goods with integrity, and then people will want us, and we will lead the way in the world if we get our own house in order. And we should not have anything to do with propagating in the world monstrosities like private finance initiatives, privatization of utilities. And we shouldn't be cozying up to tyrants. I know that's a really difficult one, and it's very easy with the retrospectoscope to say that previously we, and principally the Americans, have done the wrong thing and supported tyrants. It is tough, and to rebuke tyrants has a cost, especially if the tyrant has got oil or some hold over us. So there may be costs to doing that, but I think if we stick to that, then people will know how we will behave in a particular situation. We will try to be the honourable, do the honourable thing. And I'll touch on this later, but that we've really got to get hold of the United Nations and get it to work properly as a way of sorting out the world's problems. It's very divided at the moment, and we must try persuasively to overcome that. And one particular thing that I'd love to have people's help about this is that most of the countries around the world that do awful things have embassies in London, and particularly around sort of Knightsbridge and the West End and so on. And it would be great to have contacts with people, maybe retired people, who would have the love and time to just go round to embassies when something happens. If, say, somebody is sentenced to death in Iran, that we can have somebody on the doorstep the next morning to say, well, is this really necessary, and that sort of thing, in a gentle way, but actually to be there promptly. Because casework like that and getting our facts right and reacting promptly shows tyrants don't like being exposed. And if we have people on the doorstep gently and persuasively in a very gentlemanly or ladylike way saying, look, we're concerned about this particular person or particular issue, it counts for a lot. And if you are within sort of visiting distance of London embassies of foreign countries, it would be great to be in touch with you. Thanks a lot. So I've divided the world up into these 19 regions, and some I've got more to say about than others, but there are important things to be intervened about in most of them, and I'd be grateful if you could spend a few minutes trawling through that. Thanks very much.